What was it that led you to want to just go full throttle and scale that fast?
The biggest part of it was, my business acumen. I've been in business for myself since I'm 18 years old. So I recognized there was an opportunity to scale very quickly. I recognized where money was cheap and I need to jump on this because I know this gravy train is going to end. And sure enough, it did, as far as cheap money. So I wanted to do it as fast as possible.
All right, welcome to the Investors Club podcast. And joining us today, we have Thomas Mosera, who began his real estate career 7 years ago and quickly advanced to managing a multifamily investment group and his own portfolio. Now focusing on new construction in Florida and New Jersey, Tommy is making waves in the industry. So let's explore his journey and strategies in the real estate world. Tommy, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Marco?
I'm good, man. Good to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate you taking out the time.
Absolutely. Anytime. We go back a long way.
We do, man. We've been doing deals together for a little bit, so it's good to reconnect.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. So just to give the listeners and the viewers an idea who you are, what was your life before real estate?
Before real estate, I was a chef and restaurant owner. I'm like a classically trained chef. Had restaurants in Atlanta, New Jersey, Manhattan, and built my career in the hospitality industry for over 20 years. And, when I started a family, I felt like I needed to change. The restaurant business is definitely not conducive to family life. So I sold my restaurants and decided that I always wanted to get into investing in real estate. And I felt that the best case scenario would be to get my agent license first and learn the business that way on the agent side. And then slowly transition over to, investing and having my own portfolio. But that happened very rapidly because I actually chose the right firm to go with. When I started my career, I was working with a Keller Williams office, but the office that I was with was really heavily into investing in multifamily through Essex County. And, I jumped on board with their investing platform called Results Only. And it bubbled from there. And I helped grow that platform with the owners of the company and quickly grew my portfolio, within New Jersey very fast.
So you mentioned something before. You said you got with the right investing brokerage, right? So how did you make your decision? Because I think a lot of new agents fall short because they team up in a place that doesn't really fit like their vision of what they're trying to do in real estate. So how did you select the right one?
So what it came down to was just interviewing the brokers. I suggest to everybody, listen, I've been dealing with wholesalers for a lot of years now, and I always tell them, what you're doing is great. You're killing it in acquiring. There's more to this business, so you should get your agent license and you should transition into an agent lifestyle with the wholesale background. But you also have to know who you're working with. Like I went with a Keller Williams office. Now we all know there's Keller Williams offices all over New Jersey, and I ended up skipping over the Montclair office and went to the Clifton office because I seen the price point that they were selling was what I was looking for. And after interviewing with the office, I understood what they were doing. And a lot of the sales through that office were multifamily. So I knew, okay, I wasn't getting into agent business to be the residential real estate agent that's going to sell, single family Montclair homes. So it didn't make sense for me to go to that office. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a guidance in how to understand how to underwrite a multifamily deal, how to sell those houses, how to work with tenants and all of that stuff. So really it's just talking to the broker. They're very open to explain to you what they do and their processes. So, David, David was
Yeah.
the owner of the Keller Williams that I was with at the time. He's incredible at what he does in the multifamily space, and he knew how to get a portfolio to where he is, and we wanted to show that to a lot of people. So his results only platform was in its infancy when I joined them. And I was, one of the first agents that bought into it and like really was just like, okay, work with me one-on-one, show me what you do. And I helped, grow that platform with him. and other, agents within that office. And we grew it into a pretty large platform that still is working today. It's not something that I wanted to stay involved with, but it's still a really good education piece. And that's really what it comes down to, is you have to educate yourself. It doesn't matter what it costs. A lot of people struggle with, well, I want everything. The first year that I did this, every deal I was doing wholesale flips. I was finding properties. I was, getting involved somewhat, and I was making very little money, because for me, it was education. That's
Mhm.
everything to me. Like when, even going back to like in my restaurant days, I opened my first restaurant before I was a trained chef. After I did that, I realized, okay, I made money here, but I could do it so much better and more efficiently. I went to culinary school after that.
Wow.
So I look at it that way. Education and coaching is the end all be all to me. I think if without that, forget it. You're not going to make it, or it's going to take you that much longer. So that's why I was able to I started with results only in January of 2020, right when we didn't even know what COVID was. And
Yeah.
in that first year during COVID, we built my portfolio to, I think we had 30 doors the first year. And the second year, we went up to 75 doors in New Jersey.
Wow.
And that was all during COVID. Going into these places with masks, and, and just doing things the way we had to do them, and transitioning. So without the help of David in understanding how to analyze the deal, we would have lost a lot of deals because I wouldn't have known how to do it.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, number one, when you said interviewing the brokers, right? Know what team you're signing to, right? Like when somebody gets drafted an athlete into the pros, they look at each other, like what could you do for the franchise? And also, is this the right place for me? The area, what they're trying to do, win Super Bowls, right? Like you're trying to win a Super Bowl in your life, right? You're trying to build something in real estate. You should definitely do your due diligence on the broker that you're going to be working with for X amount of time, right? And mentorship is so important. Shout out to David. I mean, we still work together. And Tommy, a lot of those deals that you bought on in 2020 were from us, right? We
Yes,
partnered on a few of those deals in Newark.
absolutely. And, and then the great part about the relationships is, I bought them from Marco. Marco ended up doing another deal on the other side with it with me. So there's there's always that. So that's the other big huge piece, is the relationships with who you work with. I'm like a big supporter of, you gotta be liked in this business. If people don't like you, you're never gonna make it in this business. I have relationships with people that I did deals with in 2017 when I first became an agent. We did a deal with an agent, and I'm working with her today. On another deal, I'm trying to close a deal with her. So all of these things happen. Like, when I left Keller Williams, I kind of left the multifamily space. Me and Marco kind of, drifted apart a little bit, but his name came up in a conversation, a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, oh, well, let me just call Marco. And I called Marco. We had a conversation, and here we are today. If I was a jerk, I don't think Marco would have taken my call.
Yeah. And vice versa. I don't think if you heard, somebody mention my name, you would reach out to me. And it's pretty cool, man, because through that we were networking. We had a great conversation of what you're looking to do in the future, and it was awesome, man. And then I'm like, hey, why don't you come on the show? Let's talk about it. And here we are. So that's awesome, bro. So why don't you help people understand? Because I think there's a lot of people that want to get into multifamily, start building their portfolio, and I think a misconception is cash flow when you're doing multifamily. Can you break it down more or less for our listeners and our viewers so get a clear understanding what they could expect if they want to get into the multifamily buy and hold space?
Yeah. So when you're looking at a deal, you really have to analyze, the deal, obviously if it works or not, financially. Forget about cash flow, today. Are you buying in the right place where you're going to have appreciation in the property? A couple of years ago, everybody was buying everything in sight because we were all had, 3-4% interest rates. Even, some of my stuff was 5 and 6, but that was really low on a private lender side, because now you're looking at, between 8 and 12 on a private lender side. And a lot of these things, if you want to do volume, you're not going to go the traditional route. So it really all depends on how fast you want to get to your goals and what your goals are. And that's really important to, to set up in the beginning of your year when you're starting. Do you want to get one or two under your belt? Do you want to get 10 under your belt? It's two different things. If you're looking to get one or two, you potentially could house hack, do an FHA, keep it for a year, refi out of that FHA, and go from there. But the problem is right now, because of where interest rates are and because of where house prices are in New Jersey and there's no inventory, you can't have an expectation of cash flowing a lot. It's just not there. But you can still expect to have appreciation. So let's take the newcomer who wants the house hack. You could buy a 4-family house, and this is saying that you have the funds to close on it with whatever 5% of the purchase price, and you qualify for a mortgage, that you have a job that you could qualify for. But you could buy a 4-family. Right now, I'm doing a deal on a 4-family just over $600,000. The rent rolls for the other 3 units are probably around 1,700 because I pushed them up. I owned this house for a couple of years and I got the rents up, and I'm at the top end. So the buyer knows, okay, I'm going to have, whatever, just under $6,000 a month coming in. I know my mortgage. I know I'm going to cash flow a little bit. I'm good. If that's my expectation, but don't have an expectation of I'm going to make 500 a door off of this 4-family house. I'm going to be putting 2,000 in my pocket. Your expectations are off. So get with someone who knows how to underwrite a deal, and you could go to your lender. If you have a good lender that you're working with, go to him. That's going to be your good source of knowing, does this deal work for me? And that's a big thing that you have to really understand. And I tell everybody, any young person I'm talking to that is looking to, start their life in this career, you have to understand the way FHAs work, and that's being an agent. Like beforehand, I wouldn't have known, I need to buy a 4-family first, and I could house hack down the line and have 5 houses in the next 10 years, all using FHA loans. I know how to do that now because I've had my education. You're just refining out of one, going into another, but you have to downsize into a 4-family to a 3-family to a 2-family. So like if you go out and buy a condo now with an FHA, you blew up that plan. So there's a lot of different plans. So you need to talk to people like me or Marco to understand, what's my path? What am I looking for? The person I'm selling my 4-family to this week, she's not looking to house hack or anything. She's a successful attorney who is looking to just put some properties under her belt for appreciation. So the cash flow is not the end of the story for her. If your cash flow is a couple of $100, great. That's what's good for her. So just really understand, either if it's your client or yourself, what is your target, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's a lot of gold there. Especially because people expect to cash flow right away, but there's, you're cash flowing in a different sense, right? With appreciation. So if you got the money and you want to park it somewhere that's going to appreciate, that's definitely the go-to. So that's good stuff, man. So can you talk about your experience of building a multifamily investment group? Like you went from, 0 to 100 real quick. You know what I mean? So what was it that led you to want to just go full throttle and scale that fast?
The biggest part of it was, my business acumen. I've been in business for myself since I'm 18 years old. So I recognized there was an opportunity to scale very quickly. I recognized where money was cheap, and I need to jump on this because I know this gravy train is going to end. And sure enough, it did, as far as cheap money. So I wanted to do it as fast as possible, but I'm in a different position than someone that is young, But I'll tell you this much: as fast as I did it with very little of my own money too. So again, I'll go back to education. One of the things that David has mastered is working with investors. So he taught me very quickly how to work with investors, and I understood it very quickly. And then it's my relationships also. Again, I'm 20 years in a restaurant business. I've raised millions of dollars for businesses in hospitality. So I understand that. So I was able to raise capital very quickly. So I had very little of my own money into these deals, and my investors, reaped the rewards of it. They all did very well with me. They made a lot of money with me, but that's how I scaled it very quickly, is using investor money, because there's only so many loans you can put in your name. There's only so much capital you're going to have. So there's going to be a lot of funkiness. And I'm not saying of those 100 doors, they were all, home runs. There was some grand slams, some home runs, some base hits, and there was a bunch of strikeouts. So you have to also expect that too. The numbers, you have to work with the numbers, and you can't expect everyone is going to work. I mean, I've lost money in multifamilies in New Jersey in these last 5 years.
Mhm.
It's just the nature of the beast. You're not going to make it on every one of them, but you have to be prepared for that too, financially,
Yeah.
because there was a time with during COVID that I acquired all these, that I had, of when we had 30 doors, 10 of the doors weren't paying rent. So you got to be able to fund that mortgage, because you don't want to get foreclosed on. So, I'm proud of the fact that I was able to set myself up and was smart enough to have the funds available to move them around to get to where I needed to be. Never lost the house to foreclosure, but lost a lot of money on a bunch of houses.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and it's great that you keep pointing back to education, right? Because that's what we're here for. The Investor Club is a free community for people to learn how to get started in real estate or even scale their existing real estate business, right? So it's so much education there. You can reach out to someone like me. You can reach out to Tommy if you have any questions, but also locally, there are so many meetup groups, right? And I think people just feel like, oh, I heard it already. I went to one 5 years ago. I know what they're going to talk about. I know what they're going to say. Doesn't matter. Keep surrounding yourself. Keep networking within that industry. Keep hearing the lender over and over talk about what FHA, conventional, hard money, private money, until you completely understand it and you could just have a logical conversation about loans, right? That's how you're really going to get yourself educated, where you could take on this business. And what you mentioned there, right? The education helped you get started, but it also helped you building the network to get you through the hard times, like the pandemic, right? Education will do so much for you in your real estate career. That's good, man. So why don't we talk about portfolio development? Well, we did already. Why don't we talk about your shift to Florida? So it's 2020. You bought tons of property in Newark, sold some, held some, lost some money, made some money. And where did the shift to Florida come from?
So it was starting to get harder to find deals in Newark and in East Orange and throughout Essex County, because that's really where I mainly focused, was Essex County. And it was just, you were fighting a lot of people for a lot of, for very few properties. So I was trying to recognize another area that made sense to me. And one of the big things for me was, if I'm going to build a portfolio that's sustainable, I need to be in a landlord friendly state. Jersey is not a landlord friendly state. And that's why I started getting rid of a lot of my properties in my portfolio, because I was finding it very difficult to have a sustainable business if the state is against you. And that's just a reality. I mean, I don't care if somebody gave me a house for $1 in New York, I would never buy it as an investment property. It's just crazy to do that. I would never invest in California. But Florida, when I recognized what was going on there, I realized, wait a second, Florida, they're really on the side of common sense. I don't even want to say they're on the side of the landlord, because you got shady landlords out there who they'll go after, but they're on the side of common sense. When you invest in a house in Florida, if the tenant signs a lease, that's an obligation on both sides. I have to keep the house safe for that tenant, giving them whatever services I provide. They have to pay their rent. If one person doesn't do that, somebody has to be accountable to that. In New Jersey, if the boiler stops working and we don't get out there right away, and the state gets called on us, we get a fine immediately. Even if we're trying to get the problem solved, we'll end up with a fine if the state comes out. In Florida, but on a side note, if they stop paying their rent, you got to sit there for 6 months waiting to get a court date to get them out and have to waive everything and say, I'll let them go free and clear, just get them out of my house. It's ridiculous. There's no accountability on the tenant side. In Florida, on the other hand, there is. You know, I bought a house in 2021. There was a holdover tenant in the house, and I didn't care. I bought it. I filed the eviction. 2 weeks later, they were gone out of the house, and they left on their own because they knew once it's filed, there's no leg to stand on. They didn't have the money, and they weren't going to pay me. So I knew there was no leg for them to stand on. They just got out, and that was during COVID. So it made it very easy and very attractive to me to say, okay, let me invest down here. So I started buying single family houses because I was like, all right, there's not a lot of 3 and 4 family houses in Florida. It's in the areas that I was looking at. And I really wanted to focus in on an area that was away from water because of, hurricanes and all of that stuff, because that's the other issue that came up, because there is still pluses and minuses everywhere. So I stayed in Central Florida. I bought a couple of houses and in a specific town, and I seen, wait a second, these houses, I'm getting them for really cheap. I was buying 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom houses for $75,000. They needed 15 to 20,000 in work, so my all-in budget was about 100, 105,000. And then it was my job to get the rents up to where they needed to be on the market side to 13, 1400. These people were all paying $700, $800. So that was the hard work. That was the stuff of being a landlord and understanding how to be a landlord, how to be a good landlord, how to be a respected landlord, and still respect your tenants and get them from paying 700 to paying 1300 without even leaving. And that was one of the big things that I worked very hard on for myself because that's always going to be your hard part, is getting your rents up. But we did it and we got them there, and then we started flipping some of these houses, and we bought a lot of houses at once. Like I took down a 9 unit portfolio from somebody. I took down a 17 unit portfolio from somebody, all within 6 months. So we put a big name for ourselves right out there that we were getting within 6 months. We were already getting calls from wholesalers saying, I see what you're buying. I have another one. I have another one. And I was just grabbing these houses because they were just so cheap. But the downside of that was I was changing the market faster than I could keep up with buying, because people were seeing this happen and seeing I was selling houses too at the same time. And it got to a point where I pushed the market up and I changed the market in the town just by buying that, because it's a small town. I mean, there's a couple of thousand houses in the town. Not saying we completely did it ourselves, but we had a big push on it. And then a lot of the builders were coming in, seeing what we were doing and jumping on it. So, it goes both ways. You want to grow aggressively, but you also want to do it quietly, because you don't want to change a market for yourself and now you can't buy. Because today I can't buy those houses. Like I just picked one up a couple of months ago, 2 months ago. I ended up paying 110 for it. I should have paid 80, 90,000 for it, but I couldn't. But it was it was a one-off because like the unfortunately the person passed on and it was inherited by somebody that didn't live in the state. So I was able to pull that out. But on a normal situation, that house would have went for 130 and it would have been out of market,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow, that's interesting, man. I mean, number one, right where you started, you spoke about tenant-friendly states, and yeah, New Jersey is not one of them. New York is another. And that's I've paid so many squatters to get out of properties that we have to sell. The last one that I had, it was in Newark. I made an agreement. The lady was supposed to leave. I paid her for it up front. I was going to give her the other half once we closed, right? And I went in there just right before I was going to board up the windows to make sure nobody comes in. We go to check the house, make sure nobody's in there. Guess who's in there? The same tenant that the squatter that I gave half the money up front to. And then I'm like, look, you got to get out of here. And then she finally did, because she needed the money at the end of the day. But yeah, it's such a headache. The authorities can do nothing for you. You're better off negotiating with them direct, and it's going to cost you some money. But on the other hand, we're actually, we got into the Florida in the Florida area for the same reason, and we're doing 2 new builds, right? And then the other day, maybe a couple weeks ago, our contractor that we have down there, he's like, "Hey, we got squatters." So right away, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, here we go. They're going to want money, this, that, and the third." He by the next day he already got him out. He called the authorities. Authorities told him to leave. It was that easy. I'm like, I love Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's like a big difference. So if you want to get into multifamily, listeners and followers, just make sure you do your due diligence on the state laws, because they'll leave you broke. Are you tired of feeling stuck, unsure how to break into real estate investing? Or maybe you've done a few deals, but now you're struggling to scale. You've heard the success stories, you've seen other flip houses or wholesaling properties, and maybe you've even tasted some success yourself. But you know there's more potential and you're looking for the next step. I get it. I've been exactly where you are. My name is Marco Cabrera, and I spent years building a real estate investing business from the ground up, starting with little to no experience. Now I'm here to guide you on your journey. Through the Investors Club, I've helped hundreds of people, whether they're just starting out or doing a few deals a month, close more deals, scale their business, and build real, lasting success. In the Investors Club, we follow a clear, proven plan to help you succeed in real estate. Learn the basics. If you're new, you'll start with an easy to follow lesson on wholesaling and house flipping. If you're experienced, we'll help you sharpen your skills and identify ways to grow. With the support of our community and practical tools, you'll start finding more deals, improving your processes, and building real momentum. Whether you're just trying to land your first deal or scaling up to six figures, we'll provide the strategies and support to take you to the next level. Now, the only thing standing between you and success is taking the next step. Join the Investors Club community today. It's free and you'll get immediate access to online courses, resources, and a network of like-minded people ready to help you succeed. And yes, it's free. So imagine having the confidence to spot a good deal, the knowledge to close it, and a network of investors to help grow your business. Whether you're just starting or scaling, the Investors Club will guide you from your first deal to consistent long-term success as an investor. Or you can stay where you are, watching others grow, feeling like you're stuck doing the same deals or missing out on opportunities. It doesn't have to be that way. With the right guidance and support, you can move from stuck to scaling. So take action today. Log on to school.com/investors club. That's school, SKOOL.com/investors club. Let's build your real estate future together, whether you're just starting or ready to level up your game. See you there. Now, another thing. So you went down to Florida. Now, how did you choose that area? Because I know a lot of people want to start investing in Florida or different areas. How did you know that specific market was for you?
So my partner lives in Florida, and he actually recognized the area. He lives a town or two over, and when I went down there to see him, we were talking. He seen what I was doing up here, and he was just like, I think there's this town. It looks really good. It looks like what you're doing in Essex County. I think you should take a look at it. So for me, it was boots on the ground. Like, I don't invest anywhere. Like, I don't buy a house in Indiana because it looks good on paper. Like, you see all of these things online. You could buy here, you could buy there. We manage it for you. I don't do that because unless I have somebody on the ground, I'm not comfortable with it. So in Florida, I had my partner down there. I had a real estate agent that I knew, and we put together a team, with him as the general contractor to do the work. We brought some people down from New York that we knew that were looking to move to Florida that had some skills. So it really came down to just getting lucky and understanding, what we're looking for. But, I looked at some other areas in Florida too. I recognized there was places on the East Coast, like, Cocoa Beach and places like that fits the model too, but I didn't do it because it was 3 hours away from my partner. And I don't like to invest that way. It makes me very uncomfortable. I want to know, especially if I'm going to hold the property and put a tenant in there, something happens in that house and I'm in New Jersey and they're in Florida, I got to have people there to fix this problem. So having somebody with a vested interest in my business was really important to me. And I look to do that all the time. I have one of my other partners, he's in Texas now. So we keep looking at stuff there, but nothing really interests me. But investing where you have people is going to be vital to your business. Like, I see like this one guy, he has these Section 8 properties and they're all over the country. And he's like, okay, you could buy in and you give us 10,000, we'll manage it for you and everything. On paper, it looks great, but I don't know what I'm investing in. I'd rather put the money in the stock market and into the S&P and invest it that way than to just throw it into a house, even though I know the business, but I'm nowhere near it. So it's silly to me. I don't like that.
Yeah, and I agree with you too, because everything that we do is to limit the risks, right? Like we do our numbers, we go through what is going to appreciate for how many days on market, if it's a flip, all that is to limit your risk, right? And if you're raising private capital and then you're investing in a bunch of properties somewhere, you want to keep that money safe, because number one, you're using lenders, right? You're leveraging lenders capital, so you got to treat it like your own. You got to limit the risk and make sure you do your due diligence on whoever is boots on the ground. You got to make sure they trust them, you trust them, you got to make sure they're competent, you got to make sure they know how to respond, right? And it's so important, right? Because you want to be able to sleep at night. You don't want to drive yourself crazy, um wondering if everything's working out 3 4 hours or in a whole nother state away, right? So that's important. Now, you mentioned that you did some flips also. A lot of our listeners want to get started with flipping. Are there any key takeaways that you could help new guys who want to start flipping, or from your any experiences that you want to talk about?
Sure. So I have a wide array of feelings about flips because I don't swing a hammer. I'm not handy that way. I don't do that kind of work. I can analyze deals on the finance side. I could
You could
manage.
cook a meal, but you're not throwing up some sheetrock,
I'm
right?
not doing sheetrock. It just doesn't. I've done it before and it looks horrible. So I just stay away from that. So if you're in the boat like me, you really have to have people that you trust that are going to get the job done. And in the economy we're in right now, and in how hard it is to find good workforce and good contractors and everything, it's very difficult. So I'll do a flip if I know, number one, the right people are going to be on the job for me. I know that the job will get done. Like I won't do them anymore in New Jersey. I don't have the team together to do it. So I stay away from that. My partner in Florida is very handy. He could do the job himself, but he does sub a lot of our stuff out. So having great subcontractors are very, very important. I have plumbers that I work with, electricians that I work with, roofers that I work with, sheetrock guys and finishers. All of those people are really important to have on your side. If you don't, you're at the mercy of the contractor. And if you ever did any kind of home improvement for yourself or whatever, it's always like, okay, this is the job, this is what it costs. And, they open up a wall and they're like, oh, look at this. Like, what am I looking at? Same thing like with a mechanic. I don't work on cars. If a mechanic tells me I need rotors, struts, brakes, okay, I have to take his word for it. So you need somebody you really trust. You're not going to just go pull up to some garage with your car and end up getting a $1,500 bill. Same thing with flipping. You're not going to just call up somebody or that you find on Google and say, okay, you're going to do the work in my house. You're a general contractor. Great. You're going to get screwed. So that's really important. Your relationships are super important. And then also understanding, material cost, because those flips that I was doing 2 years ago in Florida and even over here that were costing us $15,000, $20,000 are now costing us $40,000, $50,000 because sheetrock, plywood, nails, everything is more expensive. Every single solitary thing. I mean, my partner in Florida, when we do a flip, he's got his guys, when they're cleaning up, if he sees them throwing away nails, he goes crazy. So it's just, you got to penny pinch every little bit because it just adds up really quickly. And you got to stay on top of your costs too, because there are going to be things that pop up. And it always happens. The flip we just did, the roofer, we had to do a new roof. So we had a price on a roof. And then when he took the asphalt shingles off the roof, every bit of plywood was rotten. So if you ever experience a roofer, they give you 2 3 boards of plywood in their price. Every other board is per board. I had to change. I went from 3 pieces of plywood to 35 pieces of plywood. It almost doubled the cost of that roof. We wouldn't know that going in. There's no attic in this house, so we only see it this way. And then on top of all of that, when they were cutting the plywood away, they cut 2 of the air conditioned ducts in the house and didn't tell us, so they put the roof back on. So now I had to open up the ceiling to get to those air conditioned ducts to fix them. So these are added costs that would not be in my budget. So I number one, you have to have some kind of cushion within your budget to make sure you cover them. But it's going to eat at my bottom line because I didn't put that much. I didn't put another $5,000 in my roof budget. I put 20% into my roof budget because that's my usual rule of thumb. Anything I have, any bid I have, if it's $100,000, I budget 120 because I know there's going to be unforeseen expenses. So you have to be prepared and you have to be well funded to do that. Because if you don't have the funds to do it, your job is going to stop and now it's going to cost you more because you got carrying costs for insurance and taxes and mortgage payments and all of that stuff that's not going to go away. So you got to make sure that your job continues from start to finish. But it really led me into the transition of new construction because of what's happening on the flips because it's that's also getting too expensive.
Yeah, man, that's great that what you were mentioning, like know your numbers, right? If you're gonna get into a fix and flip, I mean, that's gold right there. If it's going to cost you 100,000, add 120,000 because there is going to be some surprises and you don't want to run out of money. Perfect example, a deal that we just got on a contract. The place is gutted to the studs. They already added like ducts for HVAC. They did the siding, they did the windows. The problem was that the contractor didn't do his numbers right. So guess what? He ran out of money. So now we were able to get this deal under contract with him to help him just sell it because he can't finish the job because he has no more capital left, right? He didn't do his numbers right. He didn't do his due diligence. He didn't factor in holding costs or the prices of material that keep going up. Hopefully they'll go down this year, but we got to keep a watch on that. So that's awesome, man. So you started building a portfolio in Newark, then you went down to Florida, started taking over Florida, doing some flips, some holds. And then now after we spoke not too long ago, you said you're getting into like new construction. What is the focus and what inspired you to go down that route?
So twofold. With this last flip that I just did in Florida, seeing the costs were, going through the roof, I was looking for another alternative. And this goes back to what you said about keep going to meet up groups and everything because investors evolve and we keep changing our focus and because we have to make sure that we're making money. So like I said from this past conversation, my transition, it got to the point where I said, okay, if I'm going to do a flip and let's just say I need 150,000, and after all of my costs, selling the house or whatever, I'm putting $10,000-15,000 in my pocket on a flip. It doesn't make sense to me. So I was trying to figure out a different way to go about this. Now, I always loved new construction, but again, like I said, I'm not a builder or anything. So I made two decisions in my life, over the last couple of months. I switched brokerage firms to a firm that I found that focuses a lot of their attention on new construction in New Jersey because I wanted to be aligned with someone that could teach me that side of the business, which on an agent side, that's what I'm learning. And again, I love what they're doing because they're building, 3,000, 4,000 square foot houses, these beautiful new constructions throughout Essex County and Union County. And they're just gorgeous, these houses. And it's a much bigger step in the process. So I just want to learn it, on an agent level and then see it through working with guys like Marco. Maybe Marco brings a deal to me and I could go step by step with the builders just to learn. Don't want no part of the deal. Maybe give me the deal back as an agent, but I want to learn that process. So on this front in New Jersey, my day job, basically, I'm learning this business here as, working with new construction and working with bigger builders. But in Florida, I see a need for housing. Obviously, we all see a need for housing. There's no inventory. In Florida, there's a lot of land, but I felt that I was going to run into the same problem with new construction that I am with flipping. Material costs are going through the roof, so I needed to control that. And I was trying to figure out an alternative, and I found that prefab was my alternative because if you buy a piece of land, there's a fixed cost for the land. You know what that
Hold
is.
on, Tommy. Before you continue, can you help people understand what prefab is?
Okay, so a prefab is a manufactured home, whether it be a 5,000 square foot home, a mobile home, whatever it is. They basically build these homes within an airplane hangar in a controlled environment. And then they usually come in, depending on the size of the house, they'll come in 2 pieces or 4 pieces on a truck. They get craned over and placed on your land. I happen to think it is a much better way to build a house because when you stick build a house, you're susceptible to the weather. So houses that you're framed out, your house is getting wet, it's getting snowed on, it's getting the heat, it's getting the cold. So all of these things change the structure of the home. When I build a prefab house, it's built in a controlled environment. It's tunnel tested. They're hurricane proof. They're all of those tests come into play, and they come sealed. So when I want to build a house, I order my house, and for the size that I'm building, like right now, I just completed a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,800 square feet, and it's prefab. It was built in the factory. It comes in 2 pieces. I ordered my house mid-December. I think the third week of December, we ordered the house. That we took delivery last Friday of the house, complete. Rugs, not furniture, rugs, floors, appliances, everything in place. Doorknobs in place, outlets, everything is done. So when we put this two pieces together, we seal it up, we connect to the utilities, house is ready to sell, other than the landscaping. So what I really liked about it was what I'm paying for the house is what I'm paying for the house. There's no unforeseen cost, as far as building that house. There's no fluctuation in material because you could contract somebody to build you a house today, but maybe you're acquiring the land, you're waiting for permits. Some of these towns in New Jersey, it takes 4 or 5 months to get your permits. They're going to start buying their materials in May, June. If material costs go up, guess what? The price you got quoted now is not going to be the price you pay in June. But if I buy a house, if I order my house from my prefab company, and they're telling me it's going to cost me $100,000 for that house, and we're delivering it 2 months from now, it's allocated to me. So I'm paying that price. So that alleviated the fluctuation in the market now. Now the commodity is gone for me. So I don't have to worry about that. Now it's just my job to figure out who I'm selling this house to and acquiring land at the right price, because I know my fixed cost, it's almost becomes a fixed cost instead of a variable cost for me. So I really liked that. Now that's what I'm always looking for, like how to control my bottom line, how to always get to that point. Because like we talked about, the hospitality industry, it's not like that. Like when I was a chef, I'm buying food every day. Food prices change, and I can't fluctuate my menu cost to food costs that way. Look at the price of eggs right now, through the roof. You have companies like Waffle House and down south, they're charging you 50 cents an egg for every egg they put in the thing, because the cost becomes so crazy and so fluctuates so much. You need to narrow down on your cost. This business, no matter what you say, the numbers guy is always going to be your best friend. So if you get a good person that really understands numbers and really can hone in on it, that's where you're going to put money in your pocket.
Yeah, that's good, man. I love how you're always focused on the bottom line, because that's how you're going to make profit, right? And no matter what business you're in, if you're in just wholesaling, like a wholesaler, your marketing dollars, your time and effort, your bottom line is what matters, right? And that's important that you're like almost obsessed with it. My bottom line, my bottom line. How could I make my bottom line better? So, quick question: prefab. Can you talk about the steps? You find a lot first, and then what? Are you buying vacant lands and then drawing up plans? Can you explain how that works, like step by step?
So for the style that I'm doing right now, which they look like mobile homes. They're long, not very attractive. They're not these beautiful contemporary homes or whatever. But we're doing it for a lower income market, for more affordable housing.
Okay.
So basically, the steps: you acquire the land. And what I like to do is I like to find land that had an old house on it, because in Florida, they have something called impact fees. So if you buy raw land in Florida and you want to build a house on it, you're going to get charged about 7% of the purchase price as impact fees. But if there was a house on it already, impact fees only get paid once. So if they paid them the first time around, you're not going to pay them again. And for the prefabs that I'm doing, they're usually utilities are usually well and septic. So those two things are in place also. Those are going to be your two biggest costs when it comes to doing one of these projects. So naturally I will buy a piece of property. It has to be priced accordingly. If it doesn't have it on it, I'll just adjust. But I like to buy something like that. So this lot that I bought, recently, it was an old house that went on fire. We tore the house down, got it off the property. Property has septic and well on it. We had to do some adjustments to it, to get it up to date, and also for the bigger house. So we had to do an upgrade to the septic system, which was half the price of a new septic system. So that helped us. So once you acquire the land, then you source a contractor that is licensed with a prefab company. They're all over the country. Every state has them. I actually, years and years ago, I worked with my dad and we did some prefabs in New Jersey too. So it depends on the state laws of what you can do. But you want to find a local company, manufacturing home company, local to your area. And if you just, Google manufacture home New Jersey, you're going to find the companies that are usually in South Jersey or Pennsylvania that service New Jersey. The company I use is in Florida because you got to transport the house. So you need to be relatively close to where you're going to build it. So once the land is acquired, everything is done with that. You order your house, you prepare the land, and for what I'm building, it's even crazier. There's no footings, there's no slab, there's no basement. We do it on a gravel base with a clay base on top of that gets compacted down, so it's very strong. And when the house comes and gets delivered, it gets set up on cinder blocks, and then it gets strapped down. So the houses that I'm actually doing, the buyer who owns it, if they want to move somewhere else, they could actually take this house with them. They can get this house lifted
Wow.
and they can move it. So
They don't only have to pack their bags; they can pack their house as
the
well.
whole house, it could all go with you. So it's pretty cool, and I actually like this, this way we're going about this, because it's almost like, you've seen that transition a couple of years ago where investors were moving to mobile home parks. They were buying the parks, and they had those really movable mobile homes. These are
Yeah.
a step up from that. It's like they're not sitting on wheels or anything like that, like those parks, but they're nice houses. And like I said, this is an 1,800 square foot house. This is not a small house.
Yeah.
So when the truck came, so what ends up happening, once you order the house, you have to get another company that's going to deliver it and install the house. So you have, as far as, contractors go, you need somebody that could, clear the land, lay the foundation down, which is the gravel and the clay. You need a septic company and a well company to handle that. You work with your power company to either do a pole power to the house or underground, which is the utility company. So those are your main contractors. And then you need a company that's going to come and deliver and connect the house. So you get that through the manufacturer home company. They'll pick the house up. It came on 2 trailers. They come with a crew. They set the house on the cinder blocks. They strap the house down. They go on their way. And then my company, that we have our guys who do the clean out of the land, they'll come and do skirting around the property, landscape the property, and it's ready to go.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And you learned all this by educating yourself, right?
That's
So I
it.
tell everybody, get educated, get around people like Tommy, get around people that are actually doing it at a high level and learn. Shut up and listen, right? So before we we're pressing for time now. You got so much stuff. We might have to do another interview, man. You're just full of information. We got to
Nice.
bring you back on. So any advice for beginners who want to get started in real estate today?
So, like I said in the beginning, go get your real estate license. I always tell everybody, just get your license, because that education is key, because there's money to be made. And to go back to why I did that really and understood that was about 15 years ago. I was involved in my first time in real estate on an investor level. We were buying tax sales in South Philly, and we were buying these row homes, converting them into single family homes and selling them. So we had an agent. And back then, 15, 18 years ago, because South Philly was so crazy, we were giving real estate agents like 8% commission. We were doing 4 on each side, which is unheard of. But there was
Wow.
that much money because we were buying these houses for, $20,000 tax sales and getting them right from the city, and then, blowing them out. Costs were a lot lower. So we were able to afford it. But I seen how much money we were paying out.
Hmm.
So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this and I'm going to flip stuff and I'm going to, try to acquire, let me dip into that because I always look for as many streams of income as I can off of one deal. If I could be the agent on the buy side, that's one stream. If I could be the contractor and make a piece of the contract, that's another side. I could be the agent on the sell side. Or if I'm holding the house, I'm one of the owners, so I got cash flow coming in there. I got cash flow coming in a flip. So you got to find whichever way you can make money. So a little goes a long way. It's not that difficult to be a real estate agent. You got to go to a class and take a test and then put your license with somebody. Trust me, it's going to go a long way and it's going to help you. If you have listeners that are wholesalers, it's going to help you also because you want to know what the real estate agent does because you're essentially a real estate agent. You just don't know it. As a wholesaler, that's what you're doing. You're putting your fee on top. We put our commission on top. It's the same thing, but
Hmm.
it gives you more credibility. So when I wholesale a deal, like if me and you walk into a house and I walk in with my Keller Williams or my Premium One business card, and you walk in as Marco the wholesaler, I have more credibility than you. And
Hmm.
a homeowner doesn't know you might have done 3,000 deals and I did 30, but that business card shows a lot. So it's
Hmm.
going to give you a better understanding of the client, of how they're thinking, the seller or the buyer. And it's going to give you, like I said, the credibility to say, I'm a professional in this field. So just get that under your belt. There's no harm in it. And it helps also just working the deals. Because trust me, not every wholesaler is like Marco. Marco understands the business in and out. He will get the deal closed. But there's a lot of newcomers that don't really understand, and it's not your fault. You're learning. So
Hmm.
I can't tell you how many deals I did with young wholesalers where I had to run the whole deal. I had to control the whole deal for them to get it closed, and it's
Hmm.
okay. I'm a big supporter of educating people, whether it be a wholesaler, a mentee that works with me in the real estate business. It doesn't matter. I want to see people succeed, and I know my integrity is there that I'm not going to hurt them or screw them over in any way. So I will take control of a deal, and I think that's why a lot of people still work with me because they know if I what I say is what I'm going to do, and that's
Hmm.
the second biggest lesson. Don't tell somebody something that you can't deliver on, or don't say, I could get you this and you can't. Like, make sure you have your deal in order before you bring it to somebody because that's just going to give people a bad taste in your mouth and give you a bad reputation. So, those are the two things I think are most important for you.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. The mention about having a real estate license, I have been in situations where, like in the beginning too, where an agent ended up getting a deal before me. Now, if you're an agent because of their business card and who they represented, it was just more familiar to the seller, right? But the fact that you're saying even if you're a wholesaler, get your license because you become a double threat, right? I'm not licensed, my wife is, so any deals that we have that we are gonna list, she does it because I used to send it out to other agents and stuff like that. So it's important to have everything in house and also get your education. As a wholesaler, what helps you is credibility, right? Through Google reviews and stuff like that, and just being in the business so long, it has helped me when I meet sellers now. But for the most part, yeah, there is an advantage by being licensed, and on top of that, you have education. My wife knows some things that I don't, and I was kind of shocked by it, right? When she went, she actually joined Keller Williams with Dave Leone, but she was learning stuff that I had no idea about. Like she heard me having a conversation, and then she came in the room and started explaining it to me. I was like, look at here." So that's awesome, man. Always educate yourself. You also want to be a double threat. So if you have your license and you have investor mind, you could do some damage in this business, man. So Tommy, thank you for your time, bro. Why don't you let the listeners and watch the viewers know where they can find you on social media
Yep.
or
So
any websites that
I'm
you have?
on Facebook. You could type in my name, Thomas Mosera or Tommy Mosera. So it'll come up. I'm on Instagram. I work at an office in Millburn right now. We're called Premium One Realty. So I'm always looking for wholesalers that are focusing in on Essex County land deals. So if your listeners have any deals out there, I'm looking for older homes in Livingston, Chatham, Millburn. I'm looking in Westfield. So if you have any, lines of communication with any sellers and you don't know how to get that land deal or that house over the hurdle, give me a call. Let me know. You know, I could definitely help you with that. Anybody, and I'm always open to having a conversation too. So look for me on Facebook, DM me on Facebook. Usually that's the best place to find me. Again, Thomas Mosera is what I go under, my full name. And let's talk and let's try to work together. We go out for a drink and we could talk a little bit and we could, hammer out how we could keep working together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can vouch for you, man. Tommy is an open book. So if you have any questions, we're going to put all his information in the show notes so you can reach out. Make sure you follow him and make sure you join the Investors Club. It's a free community to help you be in rooms like this where you're around guys like Tommy, guys like me who can help you grow, get started in the business, and scale. All right. Hey, Tommy, thank you again, bro. We're going to have you on again, not only on this podcast, but also within our community as a special guest.
Thank you very much, Marco. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.